This is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk to you about my thoughts on the CW canceling Tom Swift. Now, Tom Swift was the CW first black gay lead character. Now, I've talked about Tom Swift before when I was covering Nancy Drew season 2. Why? Because in that episode, Tom Swift was the backdoor pilot for his own series. So the CW created like Nancy Drew, adapting the older Nancy Drew books by the author that created it. Tom Swift was also created by that same author. But I don't think those two ever crossed paths in like the books. So they reimagined Tom Swift. They race bent him, they turned him gay, and because they did that because the older Tom Swift books were very, very white-centric and very racist to people of color. Native Americans, black, you name it. And so they had to change that because those books are extremely outdated and extremely prejudiced and stuff. And so, like, because basically it's like, you know, Native Americans and black people are like kind of like the bad guys, savages, and then they made the white savior come in and save the day, this little boy who's white. So anyway, the CW just canceled it. It said it was his like least watched show, or one of his least watched new shows. Now, of course, they're gonna be those type of people that are gonna say, "Oh, it got canceled because it's woke," and "Oh, it got canceled because you race bent and changed his sexuality, this and that." Okay, first things first. Most people who's probably gonna say that have never even heard of Tom Swift. Don't get him confused with Taylor Swift. And because most people have never heard of Tom Swift, those books, like I said, are extremely outdated. And chances are they don't watch Nancy Drew to see him come in that backdoor pilot. Now, I told myself back in season 2, even though I'm not sure how supernatural and like technological are gonna mix within the Nancy Drew universe and everything, I'll watch the first pilot and I'll review it, but it's probably not going to be a show I'm probably not going to like and everything. Because I had no idea what the show's going to be about, because even after reading the source material, I have no idea what the book's even about when I researched on Wikipedia and stuff. So I was just like very uninterested. Now, I will say this. I had no idea the show even came on, to tell you the truth. Like, I had no literal idea. See, I don't watch shows on the CW on the regular. The only one I watch is like Stargirl, and season 3 hasn't even came out yet. So because I don't watch the CW, I don't get to see the commercials and the promos and the trailers and this and that. And so, but you think you'll be hearing about it like on social media or something like that, you know, because, you know, you always hear about like Nancy Drew on like those news outlets and stuff, and you hear about like the Hardy Boys, who was created by that same author and stuff, but you never heard anything about Tom Swift. So I had no idea until one day I decided to turn on the CW and there was a commercial for it. I'm just like, oh, it's out? I had no idea. And stuff. So 3 episodes have went by, so I was gonna watch it on the app, but that same night the 3rd episode came out. So I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. And so as I'm watching it, I was so confused as to what the world was going on. I was just like, what exactly is this show about? It felt like a spy show and everything. So like, I'm thinking, I don't remember that being in the backdoor pilot. So after remembering what the backdoor pilot was about, and remember what he was saying and everything, I'm like, okay, this show's probably gonna follow. But the show went into somewhat of a different direction. Now, Tom Swift in the backdoor pilot, he is rich and everything. He is an inventor, but he was looking for some type of like meteorite type stone that fell out the sky or something like that in the Nancy Drew backdoor pilot, and he talked about how like his father doesn't approve of him being gay and stuff. So I assumed, okay, I'm guessing it's gonna be like some type of adventure show, a sci-fi type show, you know, and and his dad would be there, and there'll be some nice drama and everything, some woe is me type stuff to make people like him more, not the father, but like Tom Swift and everything, with him coming out and stuff like that. But then when I watched the third episode, apparently his father has been kidnapped. So I was like, well, why would you take the father out the equation? And that could have brought in some nice drama and everything, some nice woe is me type stuff. And so they took him out the equation. Then we see apparently he's trying to find his father, and the kidnappers and stuff. So when I went online after hearing about this guy canceled, I saw what the premise is about. Basically, he's basically just like a black gay James Bond type person. He's basically just like a billionaire inventor spyish type person, and so he's trying to figure out who kidnapped his father and this and that, and so he's trying to infiltrate like the evil organization and stuff like that. Because the episode I watched felt like that. It felt like a type of Ocean's type 11 James Bond type thing. And that does not seem interesting like at all, because we've seen the billionaire thing before, we've seen the spy stuff. Why couldn't he just go around the world and do like adventures with his science and all this other stuff? See, that would have been a whole lot more interesting and stuff, I think, because that's what at first I assumed the show was going to be about. And so when I look at this, I'm just kind of like, this sucks, because this was an all black cast. It had representation for that. There was other people in there too. There was an Asian lady, there was a white dude. But it had representation, you know what I'm saying? Then it had a black gay lead, and that was also representation. His bodyguard was a transgender a man, and I had no idea. That I was like, what? Because I kept looking at that dude. I'm just like, he used to be a woman. Then it had a antagonist who was also gay, and so it was kind of gonna do this like lovers quarrel type thing between good versus evil. And it also brought in that one actress from Riverdale who was on Josie and the Pussycats, who was also went to that King show. So she's not having good luck when it comes to CW and stuff. And so as I was watching it and everything, I was like, okay. And also, they had LeVar Burton as the voice of the AI. So here's my things for this, and the reason why I never reviewed the third episode. I didn't know what the world I was watching to begin with. Two, the best acting in this is, of course, from the Tom Swift dude himself, because he had this charismatic, charming swagger to him. Everybody else acting was kind of amateurish and kind of stiffish in their thing. And of course, LeVar Burton does a good job, but you only hear his voice. You never see him and everything. And so I was just kind of like, this is the problem that woke culture is having. And all those like angry troll type people are going to be like, woohoo, we won and everything. But it's like, no. See, here's the problem with woke culture and the problem with this show. First thing first, you need a clear vision of what it is you're making. Two, you need some good writers writing this show. Three, you need some good writers who get some good dialogue. Four, you need a good director that makes things look interesting that's never done before. What am I on? Five. You need some people who can actually act and everything. This is that same formula the CW has, where it has a good-looking cast who can barely act and everything. Because the lead star isn't going to be able to carry the show on their own and everything. And, whatever number I'm on, probably like 6, the show has to be interesting and stuff. And it just wasn't that. It just felt like something I've seen before. It felt like that Dynasty show, but with a spy element to it. And I just didn't want to watch that because I don't even want to watch the Dynasty show. And the Dynasty show was one of his least watched shows, and it lasted for 5 seasons and stuff. So they had a prop. So with this, it's not that woke culture killed this show. It was everything else in it that I literally just named. Like, you have to have good, like, talented people directing and writing and acting for something to succeed. Now, I will say this is a slap in the face to the black community and the LGBT community, because once again, the CW has just like canceled one of their diverse shows after just one season. Now, you have shows like I said, Dynasty, that was an all-white cast and everything, but that lasted for 5 seasons and it was its least rated like show, you know what I'm saying? But they wasn't gonna cancel that and everything, but yet they canceled this. Then you have to think about Riverdale. Riverdale was literally about to get canceled after its first season, but people watching it on the app saved it, and then people watching it on the Netflix app saved it even more. But Riverdale was one of the weirdest, worst shows the CW ever created. People are constantly making fun. Riverdale is one of the reasons why people hate the CW so much. It isn't just the Arrowverse, because the Arrowverse used to be good, like really good back in the day, and then they fell kind of down like a slope towards like the middle, and then towards the end either they picked themselves up or they didn't, but I have no idea because I stopped watching. But when it comes to Riverdale is one of the main reasons why people make fun of the CW, because it was a bizarre, odd show with strange dialogue and everything, but yet that predominantly white show was able to get season after season after season until they ran out of steam, and even its die-hard hardcore viewers stopped watching the show. And so this is a huge slap in the face to the black community and diversity, but this show had a hard time bringing both those two groups in. Now, now people did watch this show and they had fans, because I saw people just loving this online. But of course, that wasn't enough to save it. And, it's quite a shame. But at that same time, I had no idea what was going on in the show, because it felt completely different from that of the Backdoor Pilot and Nancy Drew. And and a lot of people who are probably going to be upset, they're like, well, since this was the spinoff of a Nancy Drew show, and Nancy Drew is getting renewed, which Nancy Drew needs to fix itself, because by the second season, I started getting irritated and I refused to watch the third and everything. And I'm getting the same way with the fourth. I'll watch the first episode to see if it's any good. But other than that, I ain't gonna watch no more if it's not gonna be no good no more. Because the first season was truly the best season. But stop blaming woke culture. Stop blaming, because something got race bent and took away from the white dominant race and everything, that's because it's not good. No, it's not good, because you need talented people behind the scenes, and apparently they didn't have that. Like, people didn't want to see a billionaire trying to find his dad. Because think about it, his dad is homophobic and everything. Why would people want to tune in to a gay man trying to save his homophobic dad? Why? That don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? Unless they change that for this show and everything. Because think about it, when they had that backdoor pilot for The Flash, they kept everything that was similar to the backdoor pilot in the actual show. So it made sense. People could connect. I couldn't connect with this. I couldn't even connect with the backdoor pilot, because I had no idea what the show was really going to be about. But then once I saw like something came from outer space and he's looking for it, and they're going to do this whole sci-fi type thing, I'm like, okay, maybe that's what the show will be about. Then I read the source material and I'm all like, okay, so he's probably going to be going on adventures and saving people like the books did. But then the show was nothing like that. You can't change everything about what makes a character a character. This is why a lot of people are tuning out of Miss Marvel, because they're changing everything that makes Miss Marvel from the comics differently in the show and stuff. So that's my thoughts and everything. There's really no point in me even watching those other like 3 or 4 episodes to be true. I think they are going to play the rest of the episodes out. But, maybe if people watch it, maybe it'll get renewed and stuff or picked up someplace else. But, I doubt that. And it just makes the CW look like a giant failure and everything. And it also makes it seem like nothing of diversity can survive on the CW unless it has an all-white cast. And that sucks. Before I finish this video, I want to show you a comparison to the ratings, because this one doesn't make no sense. Tom Swift ratings were low, okay? But now let's compare that to the ratings of Nancy Drew season 3. They're virtually identical. And season 2 of Nancy Drew. So yet Nancy Drew got renewed for like a 4th season. And trust me when I say only the first season is good. The second season's all right, and the third one, in my opinion, is unwatchable. And then now let's compare that to that of Dynasty. Now Dynasty fared better, but as you can see, the numbers kept dropping over time. So it's like, why would you cancel the centric black show that did bad in ratings, but keep all the centric white shows that were good in ratings that had like a straight cast? Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.